If agency was the driving force in episode 4 of Andor, then fear and what each character does with it in episode 5 is our theme for this video. Paulie here on the Latino Slant, your leading source of Latino entertainment, music, movie, news, and more. We are covering Diego Luna's Andor in this video, more specifically, episode 5. And if you are so kind and don't want to give money directly to YouTube, give it directly to us via PayPal. There's our PayPal link, and we love and appreciate all the support that you guys are doing. All right. Wow. Okay, so here's what I would like to do in this video. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to spoil the mechanics of the storylines in this episode. The beginning, the middle, and end. What happens? Who does what? Who goes where? What I want to do is a commentary on the emotional places each character is at in this episode. Because honestly, it is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And I could not take my eyes off of each character. I think one of the mistakes we have done, and I'm guilty of it as well, in early on with calling Andor a slow burn. That's kind of misleading because we equate slow burn to action. So we want action, we want lasers, we want battles and lightsabers. So I want to retract that or call that out, whatever, and then call myself out in saying that this is a fast burn of emotional growth, journey of each character, conflict. And if you don't pay attention almost to every scene, you're missing out on a lot. Now, this episode is called The Axe Forgets. It is part of a long line of a saying that the character Scheme uses. The axe forgets while let me get that line right. I mean, the line is right, but the axe forgets, the trees remember. And he further goes on to say, and now it's our time to chop. So what I want I wanted to give you that line to, mm. you can use that that title of the episode for each character. And as I promised, I don't want to tell you what is happening. I can tell you that the setup is now monumental, and the next two episodes in theme and tone and pace should be dramatically different. And I'm just going to really enjoy this character work. Okay, so I want to go through each character. I want to start off with Cyril, because that's where we start off with. In this episode, we get that Cyril is paralyzed in his fear of failure. Fear of failure is huge for this guy, and he, in the episode before, returns back home to his mother, who slaps him. So I will tell you that with Cyril, his fear of failure paralyzes at home, where he's just sitting there. his 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 action, if we can say action, changes towards the end of this episode into fear of failure becomes obsession. And this actor does an incredible job with that. In his scenes with his mother, there's only a few of them. And then kind of the final scene of what he is doing and what he becomes obsessed with. So that's Cyril. All right. Now, what I find probably The most fascinating and interesting of all the conflicts of fear that we were talking about is that of Andor and Scheme. Scheme is a member of this band of rebels that let me get a good shot of these guys. Scheme is a band of rebels. Is part of the rebels that are have been in the forest staking out their their heist. And as we said, Andor comes in later. Trying to get that good image. All right. Well, that's the best we're gonna do. That's the best I can do with. There we go. Okay. Scheme's fear is we talked about zero being fear of failure. Scheme has major resentment towards the empire that goes deeper than just your typical one, and it's incredible to watch. He's a fear of distrust, major distrust with Andor, where it culminates and climaxes in this episode, and they both find a common ground. Andor, in a way of showing his leadership, talks about in this episode fear in regards to not letting it lose your nerve. If you lose your nerve, you succumb to your fear. He fully admits he's in fear of the heist that's about to happen, but he's not going to lose his nerve over it. It's incredible. Just incredible dialogue and interplay between these characters because what's happening with this unit is that they have to trust each other. And as Andor says, I don't want to go in there looking over my shoulder. There are so many fantastic moments in this, and I want to give Robert Meyer Burnett, R&B, some props. He was on the Campia show talking about this in kind of the same things that we're talking about. We're going more deeper into what fear does to each character and how each character operates from a place of fear very differently, which is very human. R&B is reminding us that this series is not even halfway over. It's was it 12, 14 episodes? We're barely on 5. And the luxury of a full season of television is that we can take time with these characters. And it's something that Disney Star Wars has never done so far in the last few years. So that is an incredible insight. And I want to give my boy R&B some props on that. So as I was saying with Scheme, it's a very fear of distrust that comes from of a very familiar place with all of us as far as protecting our family and our loved ones. And when those loved ones are taken away from us, what do we do? It's just there's I think I want to leave the rest up to you guys. This actor, as well as the whole cast, is so grounded and so real, and you believe that he is an ex-con because they do share an ex-con moment, which I find interesting as well. So that is Scheme, and they have about 2 or 3 just amazing scenes together where finally their distrust is squelched for the time being. Okay, now we go to Mon Mothma and her family life. We don't see her a lot in this episode, but we had already established what her fear was before, fear of being found out. Now, this fear of losing her family is real as her daughter. This is the first time we're going to see the daughter and the father again. They have major resentment towards her, so much so they don't want to spend time with her. So she has really dedicated herself to this rebellion, the beginnings of this rebellion. And it was more of a check in with her, like I said. Um, mm, they're all getting ready. Not only is the team getting ready for the heist itself on Abdani, but the outlying characters, Mon Mothma and then Luthien, who are the architects of this, are just on their last nerve. Everyone's on their last nerve. And even Andor's uh, talks about this, that the day before any heist or any crime, right? It's the worst because you're just waiting and you're worried. It's so good. And props to Diego Luna for this his performance, and what you're seeing with with his character is his kind of rise of, out of these, criminals, ex-cons, and um and rebel leaders, true rebel leaders, him being a leader. Okay, and I'm gonna get to that in a little bit more in a second. So that's Mon Mothma, and um, I forgot the character's name, and I forgot the character's name for this one. But what I can tell you is each each rebel member here, and there's only 6 of them, not including Luthien, 6 here on the planet. You really get a sense of why they're doing this. Why they're doing this. This one is so driven by the ideals of the rebellion that he kind of reminds you of that that innocence and just belief in freedom that he has, and it's inspiring. And he's slowly kind of finding a place in the hearts of all these guys who are just so, like, just road hard and cynical scheme in Andor. So that was a really, really good moment. I would say fear has driven him. I would say his fear is fear of the loss of freedom, because that's all he's talking. He's very eloquent too. Another fine actor. Awesome. All right. Now, here's a moment where Diego Andor's character questions their knowledge of the heist. And because of that, he, in a sense, takes doesn't take control, but he makes it very clear as to what he's going to be doing in this heist, and he won't back down from that. Because he senses a lot of fear and indecision from the leader, and he's kind of surprised by that. Now, Lieutenant Gorn, I believe, it's a very interesting character. Very interesting character that we're we're getting a lot more in this episode. I think if anything, we actually had a lot more of him in this episode than before, and more screen time definitely for him than the other establishing characters. Wow, what a great character. And he is obviously a lieutenant in the Empire, but also a member of this rebellious group. So he uses his fear of this heist failure into action, as far as putting his men into a lull of comfortability. And there's a lot of things that have to work if this is going to work. And so we're seeing kind of like how he operates with his men and how he operates with his duty, just to make this a possibility, and really interesting. And there is some insight to his character I don't want to give away that is adds another layer of a real person underneath that uniform. Really good stuff. All right, so there's some good moments here of we had talked about Andor becoming more of that leader. And again, without storyline details, I want to tell you that his attention to detail, his self-awareness, his his yeah, really that's it. Makes him stand out and they know it. So they take the lead. They're starting to trust him in the sense of this mission and take the lead to make changes to the plan. So that is another good insight that what's going on there. Um, we finally get back to Deidre, and she just has a fear of her fear of failure is motivated by her. I want to say lust for power, but she's very by the book. So unlike Cyril, right? She's got more means and more elbow room to do the work. But I think eventually her and Cyril might connect as far as finding out who Andor really is. Again, she just in a few scenes. This is one where she basically says, like, I'm going to work overtime to get this thing done, as she is driven. So I think I touched on all the characters, and I touched on Cyril and Andor really going at it right before the eve of the heist. And then finally, that trust is won for the heist. Bureaucrats, as far as Deidre and Blevin, uh, are moving up in the ranks. There's a great line in regards to the rebellion that made me chuckle because this is a Star Wars universe. Don't get it wrong. And even though the storyline and the dialogue is not your per se fantasy Star Wars, that outside world is there and occasionally dips in, which is again really well done. So finally, at the end of this episode, we see Luthien really just once, and he's nervous as hell because he feels he might have messed up in trusting Andor, and because Andor was the only one connection of his that wasn't clean as far as it being traced back to him. So that was it. You know, again, that agency of episode 4 goes so well with 5 and the fear of each character that you see a lot going on with these guys getting ready for this heist. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Are you watching the show? I know a lot of people have checked out already. I think it's a shame because this is really the best Star Wars from Disney we have gotten. That is not up for discussion that is just my opinion, but it's really shaping up just as each episode is getting better and better and better. And yeah, I'd love to hear your comments. We'll see you soon wherever you're at. Keep your slant fuerte. Gracias.